Welcome dear students and hope that you are doing great. So today I am again with 11th class physics guess for March session 2024, which is according to the latest syllabus, and in this guess we will discuss the complete marks distribution of each and every chapter, and we will also have a look on those chapters from which long answer type questions will be asked. So let's start first of all with the question paper pattern. So there will be definitely the 4 sections. Section A, it will have 10 questions, each carrying 1 mark, so total 10 marks. Section B, it will carry 9 questions having 2 marks each, so total 18 marks. And section C, it will have 9 questions and each will have 3 marks, so total 27 marks. And the last section D, it will be your long answer type question. There will be total 3 questions, so carrying 5 marks, so total 15 marks. So now let's start with the chapter first, unit first, which carries 5 marks, right? So in this unit you will just have a look on differentiation. You should be able to do the differentiation of x raised power n, sine of x, cos of x, log of x by ab initio method. This is very important. Next is the dimensional analysis of time period of pendulum. Similarly, centripetal force. Actually here you have to study the units and the dimensions. You should be able to tell the derived units, right, and their dimensions. For example, if I just talk of universal gravitational constant, right, universal gravitational constant, you should be able to calculate its dimensional formula. So unit conversion, it is also very important. For example, if I just tell you I am having let's say joule, I am also having erg, right, and I am also having the calorie, you should be able to convert these units into one another, right? For example, as you know that we are having 1 calorie, so 1 calorie, it is always equal to 4.184 joule, right? So unit conversion is very important, and then the significant figures you will study here. So units and dimensional formula, right, this you will study in unit first. And the next is unit number second, so it carries 9 marks, right? This unit will be very important because from this long answer type question will be asked carrying 5 marks. So here you will study first of all parallelogram law, right, cross and dot product of vectors, right? Next is you have to actually calculus and graphical method for equations of motion. As you know that we are having various we are having 3 main equations of motion. Just v square minus u square is equal to 2as. We are having s is equal to ut plus 1/2 of at square, isn't it? So these equations of motion you have to actually derive in both calculus and also the graphical method is very important. Here in this chapter you should also study the graph, the velocity time graph, isn't it? So next is the projectile motion, projectile derivatives. In these derivations you have to actually, in this projectile motion, what you have to calculate. So this projectile motion, it's very important. You should be able to derive here the horizontal range, the maximum height and time of flight. This is very important. Similarly, then you will study here the cases of uniform velocity and acceleration. Then the next is that is the uniform circular motion, UCM, uniform circular motion. You will study this. Then let's move to the next unit, that is unit third. So in this unit third you will study the law of conservation of linear momentum. This will be very important. Next is banking of road with friction, right, how it will vary, what kind of friction it will be, right? Similarly, centripetal force, it is derivation, it will be important, you have to derive this. Similarly, the impulse momentum theorem, it's very important. Next is the angle of repose, you will study this. Next you will study here the Newton's laws of motion, that is the Newton's first, second and third law. Particularly this Newton's second law you have to derive this, right? And what is limiting friction law, you will also study this. Then the next is your unit number 4 that carries 6 marks. So that is, here you will study work energy theorem, and you should also study here elastic and inelastic collisions. Particularly you have to derive that E is equal to 1 in elastic collision, right? Next is you will study velocity after elastic collision, right? When the two bodies they have elastic collision, after that what will be the velocity, right? Next you will study collision in 2 dimension, right? Then you will also, here you should be able to prove that dl upon dt it is equal to torque. So potential energy of spring, it is very important. Conservative and non-conservative forces you will study here. Next unit is unit 5, it carries 6 marks. So here you will study parallel and perpendicular axis theorem, it will be important. Next is the center of mass, this is very important. Torque and angular momentum, the relationship between the three, that is the center of mass, the torque and the angular momentum, right? Center of mass you should be able to calculate it for a ring, for a rod, for a disc, and for 2 particle system, right? Then the next very important topic is radius of gyration, its derivation, right? Next you will study moment of inertia, right, which is represented by I. Then let's move to the next chapter, that is your 6th, it carries 6 marks. So here you will study simply the gravitational potential energy, the universal law of gravitation, right? And this is very important, variation of g, acceleration due to gravity, right? With altitude, right, with height, with depth, what will be, how it will vary, what will be its value, you will study this. Kepler's law of motion, it will be important. What is escape and orbital velocity, it will be short answer type question, so you will study this. Then the next is very important chapter, that is unit 7. Unit 7 is very important because it carries 9 marks and long answer type question will be asked from this. So here you will study Reynolds number, its derivation, equation of continuity, its derivation, Bernoulli's theorem, so it will be important, its derivation. What is stress, it is stress-strain relationship, or we can say stress-strain curve, you will also study this. Then the next very important is modules of elasticity, this will be very important. Here you will study the Young's module, right, bulk module, shear module, right. The next you will study excess pressure in a soup bubble, right, ascent formula capillarity, right, you will study this. Similarly in this unit you will also study applications of surface tension. You already know that we are having water, whenever it falls from a tape, it falls in the form of water droplets. So why water attains this spherical shape, right? Similarly insects, they can walk on water. So the applications are very important, just we are having the capillary action. Next you will study here the Stokes law, the terminal velocity, its derivation will be important. Wien's displacement law will be here important. Similarly Stephen's law, so these laws are very important here. Next you will study specific and latent heat capacity, specific heat capacity, right? Just we are having specific heat capacity at constant volume, specific heat capacity at constant pressure, and the relationship between them, relationship between heat capacity at constant volume and at constant pressure, you will study this will be very important. Then let's move to the next unit 8, it carries 6 marks. So here you will just study the 0th law of thermodynamics, 1st, 2nd and 3rd law of thermodynamics, particularly 0th, 1st and 2nd law of thermodynamics, it will be very important. Then the thermodynamic processes, right, just we are having the isothermal process which is carried out at constant temperature. Similarly isochoric process which is carried out at constant volume. Similarly isobaric process which is carried out at constant pressure. I hope you have gone through these. Acyclic process, we are having a irreversible process, right? Similarly heat work and internal energy you have already studied in chemistry. We are also having the thermodynamic chapter, so here it is the same. Then let's move towards the next unit, that is your unit. We are having 9 unit, it carries 6 marks, right? So here important will be the kinetic theory of gas, the various postulates, right? Root mean square speed of gas molecules, you should be able to calculate this. Degree of freedom, right? degree of freedom for monoatomic gases, like we are having the noble gases, right? And for diatomic molecules, right, like the oxygen, nitrogen, diatomic. Law of equipartition of energy, it will be important here. You will then study pressure in a cubical box derivation, right? That means simply the derivation of pressure of an ideal gas, right? You will write here of an ideal gas. So if you are having an ideal gas in a cubical box, it will just exert the pressure, and you have to derive here the relationship. Next is the very important unit, that is the unit 10. It carries 10 marks. So from this you will also have long answer type question. So you will remember these are the 3 units which I told from which long answer type question will be asked. So here you will study, this is very important, that is the simple harmonic motion. Here you will you should be able to calculate the acceleration, velocity, phase and energy, right? That's important. Damped and undamped oscillation is very important, right? Next is what are beats and Doppler effect will be very important. Standing waves in string, open and closed pipe, right? Next you will study the longitudinal and transverse wave. Simple pendulum you will study, and very important is derivation of expression for its time period. It is simply for its time period. You have to derive the expression, right? So this will be your unit 10, and this will be the last unit. So I hope that you will prepare all these questions. They are very important, and questions will be asked from this guest. Also, if you like, and then also share and subscribe. Thank you for watching.